What does Colgate mean by live life to the brightest? Could it be a rich glass of red sipped inside a Parisian cafe on a snowy night when my gaze is met by a tall, mysterious... I mean, brushing is directed with Colgate Optic White Pro Series toothpaste gives you a visibly whiter smile in just 3 days, so you can live life to the brightest and finish that glass without worrying about teeth stains. Colgate Optic White. Find it at all major retailers.
Hey there! Did you know Kroger always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower-than-low prices? And when you download the Kroger app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Kroger today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Joe, we are back at Newport Beach, episode 16 of season 3, The Road Warrior.
For the love of God, Matt, why are we back?
Let's talk about this, because last week I mentioned how the OC theme song, I'm debating if it's a good theme song. Not that I don't think the song is a banger, but I don't know if it's effective in how dour some of the cold opens are. Mm-hmm. This is the opposite of a cold open dour, but that bothered me too, because I wrote, what is with this summer voiceover bit? A man died last week.
We just want you to know that we don't give a shit that Johnny is dead now.
It's such a silly, I feel like if this was a bit in season 1 or season 2, when there hadn't been so much terrible shit happening every week, I'd be like, what a home run cold open. This is so funny and goofy. But man, so confusing. But the giant focus on this episode, the thing that we're going to have to talk about, is what the fuck is this Sadie and Ryan storyline? Because that's mostly what we spend our time with here. And when I finally saw, so here's the very soft sell of this. Mm-hmm. Sadie and Ryan are becoming really close.
Love. Sorry, I had to.
Yeah, Sadie and Ryan are becoming really, really close. And Sadie has this mission she wants to go on, and Ryan offers to come with her. And what her mission apparently is that Johnny's absentee father owes Johnny's mom 3 years worth of child support, and she's going to get that money from him. When I actually see what their plan is, I don't know in what world these two teenagers thought they were ever going to get this child support money from this guy. This is a jack dude who appears to have some type of mob connections. Yeah. And they just show up as two 17-year-old kids and are just like, you better give us that 3 years worth of child support or else. And then their only form of retaliation is to hit his truck with a pipe, which leads to Ryan getting the absolute shit kicked out of him. It is such an insanely dumb plot. But as we go through this, as we move,
as we journey forward,
there's just bad decisions being made across the board, which leads to, spoiler alert, this episode ends with what I assume is the final breakup between Marissa and Ryan. Because I know that homegirl's not...
she's going to die.
That she's going to be dead in the next 8 to 9 episodes, yes. I assume that there's not a reconnection at this point. Especially because there's some real heavy implications that our girl's going to be spending time with Volchek He was throwing down the Riz, as the kid says to her.
No cap, straight facts.
No.
The Riz.
100%. But the moment where I was like, I think you told me you are going to find yourself not rooting for many of the Coen boys. And man, did this episode was like a character assassination on both Ryan and Sandy in one single episode, because Ryan is making decisions like playing strip poker with a girl that's not Marissa, which feels wildly inappropriate. And Sandy is like forcing his like business partner to be in a relationship with a person that he's not necessarily interested in an effort to get funding for a hospital. Like, it's just like, what is happening? Like, did they just decide that they were sick of these two characters being the only fairly continuously morally proper human beings? Like, it is baffling, the decisions that are made in this episode.
Yeah.
While we said last week that episode felt long, like, I don't think this episode felt long, but this episode is way worse. This is an awful episode of the OC.
This is, I hate this episode so much.
This is like a 0 stars episode for me. There is no joy to be found in this episode.
Again, it's like, what are you doing, writers?
Yeah.
Like, why are we, why did you drop out of Yale? Like,
yeah, like
it's just, but it's giving that, right? It's just like, let's take these beloved characters that we've been rooting for the last 2 seasons and completely chuck that, right?
Yeah,
like,
just toss it. Just toss it right out the goddamn window.
And like okay, hindsight is 2020. As an adult, I completely understand, and can empathize with behavior that may seem self-destructive, right? Like, yes. It comes from I know where it comes from.
Sure.
Thank you, therapy. But this is just it's so wild, because like the Ryan stuff is not even like self-destructive. It's just like, what, you just can't be happy. And I don't get that, and I don't understand that. And I know that is my, like, I need to empathize more for people who have those kind of mental health issues that cause them to do this kind of self-destructive behavior.
But that's not Sandy and Ryan for the entire show. I'm more forgiving when it's like and listen, I've talked a lot of shit on Marissa, but Marissa has like a history of poor decision making that comes from a different place. Ryan and Sandy, it literally just feels like, man, I think it's time that we make the audience not love these characters for no apparent reason. Like, or they must have really thought that the audience was just going to be like all in on the love of this generation, Sadie and Ryan. Like, which, like, not to say like Sadie doesn't fully bother me as a person just yet, but like, I don't know why she's here, and I don't know what this subplot is.
I know, and it's just like, it's a weird Deus Ex Machina, in the sense like it's not even like, it doesn't resolve anything. It is going to lead to more questions. And why on the like back third of a season that feels like eons and eons, like, are we introducing a new character? Like, if the cousin that comes in, like, where the fuck were you before? Your aunt has been fucking like her life has not been great this entire time. Like, what are you doing, Sadie?
Yeah, now Johnny's dead, she needs to show up, but definitely not when he like almost died getting hit by a car and had to like give up all of his hopes and dreams. At that point, she's not checking in on her cuz. Like, it's all bad. One positive, I'll give you one positive thing. Summer's nickname for Taylor is Teabag, and that gave me so much joy. That made me so happy when they said that. We're not even going to talk about it, but the Summer's like list of qualities for a new wife for her dad is just such a dumb subplot. Like, the whole like,
I know,
Summer's dad and Julie Cooper thing, whatever, I can take it or leave it. The only other thing I want to talk about with this episode, because man, we gave a good 30 minutes to last week's episode. We do not need to give more than about 15 minutes to this week's episode. But there's this whole subplot of like Marissa being interviewed by the cops because they think that maybe Johnny was pushed, and like I don't understand that because it doesn't seem like a thing that the mom, like Johnny's mom, would be pursuing.
Yeah.
Like, and I also can't help but think, and look, I'm thinking of this from 2024. Maybe I am grossly incorrect on what was things that we're capable of doing, but can't they check Caitlyn's phone history and literally see the timeline that matches with her exact story that she called for help?
Yeah.
Like it's just like one of those things where I'm like, this seems like such an easily solvable.
Yeah. How are you a
problem.
better cop than like the TV cop, right?
Yeah. Like I'm just like, I don't understand how this is a thing that's happening. Like it just this may be one of the worst. It's not my least favorite, but it is certainly, I think, the worst written episode of the OC I've watched so far.
Again, this is why I fucking hate this season. These 2 episodes that we're doing today, I fucking hate this season. Like, it's just like it's almost like they were shoddily writing an exit, right? And so, and especially for this episode, we know where it's going to go. Like, we know where it's going to end with Marissa's death. And it's even worse because, like, if at this time when this was live, like, we had no idea what the fuck was going on. It was just like, it's the series of episodes, like fucking in the Gilmore Girls when Rory and Lorelai have their big breakup. You know, like, it's just,
it's unwatchable. Those episodes are unwatchable.
Why we watch. Yeah. This is not why we watch.
And I feel like those are the episodes that are a little bit easier to take in a binge, but I can't imagine going week to week with these plots and like wanting to keep watching. Like, it just feels like the opposite of what the show promised to be.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Are you a fan of young adult novels?
Have you ever wondered the stories behind the people who wrote your favorite young adult novels?
Then join author Eric J. Brown
and Alyssa Lube of Netflix's The Circle
every other Tuesday on YAOK.
Available on all podcasting apps.
Woo!
But hey, at least it's got memorable song. Nope, it does not. This is also one of the most forgettable lists of songs we've talked about.
Yep.
We get Boom 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 by the Living Things that plays when they're at the beach. Mm-hmm. Boom Bip featuring Nina Natasha. The song The Matter of Our Discussion plays when they're playing strip poker. Tom Vex, I Ain't Saying My Goodbyes is being performed at the bait shop. And Youth Group's cover of Forever Young shows up again when Ryan's breaking up with Marissa. And I'm just going to go with that Forever Young cover again because it's the only fucking song I remember from this episode besides California.
Where did that song show up the first time?
I genuinely can't remember. I'm sure it was when they
was it the
got
night
back
they
together. Yes, it's the song that plays the night they have sex.
On the beach, right? When the thing. Yeah, okay. What, like... Can I just say that, like, first of all, I'm also choosing this song, and the, like, kind of awesome symmetry of, like, you know, this song being appropriate for for like 2 defining moments of your relationship, for, like, the time that you have sex, and then, like, what feels like the last time that you're together.
I think that's fair, yeah. Go for it. Do it up.
Yeah, I feel like this all could have been avoided if Marissa just had a better therapist.
100%.
Maybe she should have gone to San Diego.
Listen. That's all I'm thinking every time we watch this. Joe, pop culture wise, I'm going to go first again because I'm going to talk about a thing that I know, were kind of like middle of the road of, but I greatly enjoyed.
Okay, tell me.
Lisa Frankenstein.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't think you hated it at all, but I think that you found it to be just like acceptable and fine. But I had a ton of fun when I saw Lisa Frankenstein. It felt like this perfect blend of early career Tim Burton and later in his career John Waters. Like, it kind of walked that line of like Serial Mom meets Edward Scissorhands.
Yes.
For me, and I think that that's where because there is, I still won't say it for sake of spoiling for people, but there is definitely a sequence that just feels straight out of a John Waters scene where the Frankenstein needs to get a very important part
in order to make his dreams come true.
And the way it's shot in shadows and everything, like when I saw this in theaters, I was screaming. I was having such a good time.
I also really love that. I think that like the John Waters read of it is really interesting to me, and so that's putting it in a different light, so I appreciate that from you, Matt. But like, it was also like, again, it was one of those films that I wish I was like high for, right?
Yeah. When you
really
rewatch it, and keep in mind, because I do think that there are two very distinctly different John Waters. There's pre-Hairspray John Waters and post-Hairspray John Waters. And this is firmly in that crybaby serial mom version of John Waters, where it's like this picturesque 1950s, like Leave It to Beaver type world that just has one really fucked up, demented piece of it. And that's the parts that made me think of John Waters, is like there are these elements of Lisa Frankenstein where they're depicting this very rose-tinted glasses version of like the 80s lifestyle that's just got this one fantastical element that like kind of reveals, in the way that John Waters was always so beautiful at doing, it's that one crack in the facade that actually reveals how he truly feels about the 50s.
Yeah.
And then like it like breaks down the whole concept of those rose-tinted glasses in a very similar way. Lisa Frankenstein and its absurdity also like kind of is being a mockery of 80s nostalgia, because I found myself thinking, and this like, the more I thought about it, the more I was actually like, I think this is intentional and kind of brilliant. Is I was like, why set it in 1989?
Yeah.
Right? Because
I said it 35 years ago.
Yeah, like 1989, like where Nirvana's first album has come out at this point. You know what I mean? Like the idea of her like dressing like Madonna and everything, like things were already starting to shift. But then I'm like, well, maybe that's what the brilliance of it all is that it is kind of showing how we look at the 80s with these rose-tinted glasses because of stuff like Stranger Things, but it's all a facade. That's not what that decade looked like.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I thought it was fun. I thought there was a lot to analyze and talk about, but I loved the Fright School episode of it. So to get Joe's thoughts, go and subscribe to Fright School and find the Lisa Frankenstein episode.
Thank you. Let me not give you all my thoughts for free right now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I give you all the podcast for free. All the shit is free.
Yeah, there's no paywalls. But Joe, what is your pop culture that you want to talk about?
I was saving it for this episode because I needed to talk about something that is diametrically opposite in terms of its genius from how shitty the writing was for this episode, and that is the most recent Beyonce album, Cowboy Carter, Act 2.
God. I haven't heard all of it, but I definitely heard the kind of absurd that it's got this much discussion Blackbird cover that is just gorgeous, and I don't understand any type of discourse that's happening beyond just like, this is a very good cover of Blackbird.
Yeah,
that is important for reasons.
To
Paul McCartney.
To Paul McCartney, who wrote the fucking song. That the audacity. First of all, no, not even that. The caucasity of these fucking incels. Sorry, Matt. I keep thinking like your fucking neighbors. Like,
yeah. Yeah,
no,
it's true.
Like your fucking neighbors, my fucking neighbors. To be completely fair, but just like the idea that like you can tell someone, you can tell the literal author of the piece what it's supposed to mean when he's being very explicit. This is what it means. And here's the thing: I am also like, I'm a person who, I'm a deconstructionist. I understand like when at a certain point, there's this phenomenon called the death of the author, right? Where like you once a creative work is put out there, it's the people who consume it and who that make the meaning of it. But in this sense, when it was written for a very specific purpose, a very particular and political purpose in many ways, that like to erase that is interesting. Like I'm here for deconstructing and for I'm here for deconstructing, and I am here for the death of the author to a certain extent. But I also understand that like you can't erase why. You can't erase the reasons.
Well, and to me, it's I'm sure we both saw the same tweet that went kind of viral about it, but like, to me, the most fascinating thing about that particular discourse is that like Paul McCartney essentially just says like, hey, I really like this cover. Like, you know, the song was written about the civil rights movement, and hearing all these like lovely black voices singing it is extra special. And this whole thing happened before I listened to the song. And a person wrote back and said something along the lines of like, well, you know, the difference is like with the original Beatles version, it existed without like any racial whatever. And I'm like, so then I was like, all right, well, let me listen to Beyonce's cover. Maybe she changed a lyric or something. Like, what? I don't understand what. No, she just sang the damn song. Yeah. So your only problem is that someone of color sang a song that you like by a white person, and the white person is giving the okay for this, which shouldn't be a thing that anyone needs to give an okay about in the first place.
Yeah.
And that has made you like it's kind of the same thing with like when people get frustrated about pronouns and stuff. Like, you're turning a normal thing into something political.
Like, you fucking do.
You absolutely do.
This is literally a part of basic learning of English.
Yes.
From any fucking language.
Yeah. It's... Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so beyond all of that controversy, Cowboy Carter, A++, great.
A++, I mean, is it my favorite Beyonce album? Possibly. Like, it is... that's a tall order, right? Because, like, Beyonce's album since her self-titled album in 2013, this is the Beyonce that I am the hugest fan of, right? Everything before 2013 is great. Like, this is a Beyonce that is very pop, that is very attainable, digestible, consumable in many ways for people, but the beauty and the nuance and like the fact that she just kind of lets it be, right? Like, she doesn't really do interviews. She doesn't really like the fact that she's talking a lot about this album and like how it's like it stems from a moment of how she was treated. It's like it's something that I've been saying for a long time, which is just like, you like folks all, if you want to like live forever, you need to piss off an artist. Like, you really do. Just piss off a fucking artist, because you will guaranteed be living forever, and it'll be used. Like, I'm still fucking using like, you know, my college crush that this entire show, the show that we're doing right now, is based off of something that like I did when I was heartbroken over, you know, like, it's just anyway. I love this. I think the beauty of including covers and like reclaiming country music. And the thing is too, is that like the album itself, I don't really see it as like a country album. I see it as like very Americana. Like, it is like, it reminds me of like the best parts of Fleetwood Mac that I love. It reminds me of that like high glam country, the, you know, Loretta Lynn, the Conway Twitty, and then you also get like the outlaw country of it. You get the Johnny Cash, you get the Marty Robbins. Like, this is the type of stuff that I fucking love.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And I'm very interested to fully dive into the album because, man, it's just such a good concept. Well, Joe, I mean, I guess there's nowhere to go but up from here. Like, so
yeah.
So I guess we'll tune in next week and find out about how these white people problems continue to be white people problems.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.